Hello there, everybody. Today I'm going to continue my commentary on the YouTuber Mandalore's top 10 favorite expanded universe novels. So this ain't a bash on him. This is just providing my, I guess not 2 cents, but provide my thoughts on each, I guess, Star Wars book he wants to talk about. Go subscribe to him. He's a cool YouTuber. Talks about the expanded universe of Star Wars. If you want to learn about that stuff, he's right up your alley. So let's get started. Oh, by the way, sorry if you hear background noise. I have a pet bird. He's really squawking. But anyway, let's get started.
Wars Millennium Falcon by James Lucino.
James Lucino. Okay, so James Lucino, I don't know if I talked about him in the last video, but he's the one who wrote Darth Plagueis, a book I'd actually be interested in reading. And Millennium Falcon, I don't know much about this book. I think it has I think everyone in this book talks about the history of the Millennium Falcon, one of the best Star Wars ships of all time.
Tell by now, James Lucino is probably my favorite Star Wars Expanded Universe author, and
Maybe.
for good reason too, because
What's the good reason?
love his attention to detail, his amazing descriptiveness, and his inclusion of little nods to some of my favorite events from other comics and novels done in a way that reinforces the notion that this is all one big interconnected universe.
You can probably tell it's all connected, because if you look in any Star Wars Legends novel, even the new canon, you can see that there's a timeline and they even show the movies, oh, this is the timeline for this movie. We even get stuff that's like 25 years after the original trilogy, heck, even 40. So that's a really cool nod.
None of his novels exemplifies this more, in my opinion, than Star Wars Millennium Falcon, published in 2008.
Oh wow,
The main plot for
that's when the Clone Wars came out.
Falcon takes place shortly after the Second Galactic Civil War. As Han and Leia are caring for their granddaughter, Alana, they discover a device on the Falcon that Han had never...
It feels strange that Han and Leia are grandparents, because in the sequels, they just have a son, Kylo Ren. In Legends, the Skywalker family expands as the years go on.
...seen before, which prompts them to try to track down all of the original owners of the Falcon to see what this device was and
What's
who
the device?
Through the subplot and flashbacks, we follow the Falcon from her construction in the Corellian Engineering Corporation's orbital shipyards 60 years before the Battle of Yavin.
That's pretty cool. We even got the blue markings, kind of like in Solo, where the Falcon did look different, but in that movie, Han Solo damages the Falcon, and that's why it looks uneven. Because it was originally Lando's ship, but I guess he let Han have it after winning a game of Sabacc.
To her service for a secret organization of Republic senators unhappy with Palpatine's administration, and we learn about all of her owners before and after her service with the Republic group. I find this novel fantastic because, like with number 6, it's kind of this bow that just ties everything together
That's
in
cool.
an awesome little package, and it contracts this expanse of history into just one novel. I especially love the scene where the Falcon, at this point her name is the Stellar Envoy, and
Oh man, even the Falcon had its own name. So I got a big thing I'd like to say. So if you don't know, in Revenge of the Sith, the Millennium Falcon did make a cameo in this movie. It was obviously George Lucas wanted to pay nod to the original trilogy at the time, but they actually gave a lore reason in the expanded universe. And I think in the new canon, I guess it didn't show up. It didn't say the Millennium Falcon shows up in Revenge of the Sith. But honestly, if you just watch this movie, you'll just notice the Millennium Falcon and just go, ooh, look at that. I actually got a funny story. So one of my good friends, I wrote a fan fiction about him, if he was in Revenge of the Sith, and in the storyline, he is in the Millennium Falcon, and I had thought about expanding, showing why the Millennium Falcon's on Coruscant. So that's my explanation. A fun fan fiction I did. Maybe I'll read it one day if you want me to. Comment it below.
her crew navigate the Battle of Coruscant to get to the surface, and it ends up connecting with a little Easter egg in Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith, where you can see the Millennium Falcon docking at the Senate spaceport
big time.
just as Anakin, Obi-Wan, and Palpatine are arriving. Not to mention, one of my favorite aspects of Star Wars is the starships, of course, and it's really cool to see the full history of one so iconic as the Millennium Falcon, and we get a full roster of what features were added and taken off of her over the years by different owners. Another unique aspect of this novel that I haven't seen in many other Star Wars novels is that one of the characters that owned the Falcon back when she was the Stellar Envoy ends up in a coma for 60 years.
60 years? That's you're dead at that point. Unless you're like Mr. Freeze, where you freeze your wife in a tomb, and then when you unfreeze it, she's awoken.
We get to see the post-Endor Legacy era through his prequel era point of view, and it's kind of hilarious. All in all, Millennium Falcon is an excellent read for anyone who wants to know more about
I think it's like a tribute to all Star Wars and the Legends timeline.
Infiltrating its way to number 3 is Star Wars, Republic Commando, 000.
Okay, so my teacher told me about this book. He says it's phenomenal. He even says I think it does connect to the Clone Wars. I think it explains why the Commandos are the way they are, and I think it even explores like Order 66 and stuff, and the impact it has on the clones. Like this explores the clones in good ways, I'm pretty sure. Just like how the Clone Wars explored, they made like the clones human, I guess.
By Karen Travis. Published in 2005, 000 is
2005.
the second
That's when
installment
Revenge of
in
the
the
Sith came
Republic
out.
Commando series, a companion novel series to the fan-favorite Republic Commando
I like
video
the armor.
game. 000 continues to follow the four-man commando team of Omega Squad as they
Looks like
navigate
Captain
being
Sordo.
clone soldiers during the Clone Wars, and in this novel, they're tasked with taking out a separatist-funded terrorist cell that is shacked up in the heart of the Republic itself, Coruscant. After being reunited with their former training sergeant, Cal Scarada, things get a bit more
Looks like a clone, but with Mandalorian armor.
difficult for Omega Squad when they're forced to not only work with the recalcitrant Null-class Advanced Recon Clone Commandos, but also a rival training sergeant, Wallen Val, and one of his top commando...
I think those clones make a cameo in the Clone Wars when they... After the episode where Savage Opress goes full Sith Lord mode, like beast mode, like the next episode they make a cameo, like that was pretty cool.
Delta Squad. Now, anyone who knows me knows that the Republic Commando series was kind of my nexus for delving deeper into the Star Wars expanded universe, and specifically the lore surrounding the Mandalorians. So, if I have to pick one and only one book out of this series, I'm going with 000. I don't really even know where to begin, because there's just so much I love about this book. From the relationships of the clones and how they view each other being from different schools of training, to the juicy tidbits of Mandalorian lore
Nice
that shaped my
cosplay.
fascination with the Mandalorians and ultimately inspired me to make my own set of armor.
That cosplay, I don't know how people do it. Like they do so much, they put so much time into their cosplay. Like it's amazing. It's so fun going to Comic-Cons and just seeing people put on these costumes, and then you can just ask for their picture. Like I went to a Comic-Con back in September. And I met this one cosplayer who was dressed as Satana from DC, and I asked for her picture if she wanted one, and she was completely cool with it. So yeah.
There's just so much. I suppose we could start with the fact that Delta Squad becomes an aspect of focus for the story, where in the first Republic Commando novel, Hard Contact, the story mainly only followed Omega Squad. So now we have these major characters from the video game, and we get to see what Boss, Scorch, Fixer, and Sev were up to
from the
Pad
Batch
to the RAS Prosecutor and their mission to Kashyyyk. We also get our first appearance of Cal Scarada and Wallen Val, who were only mentioned in the video game's loading screens and Hard Contact, but now we actually get to learn about them, who they are.
That's cool. I mean, I feel like the Clone Wars kind of retconned a bunch of the Legends stuff. And then that's why Tad made that video where he's explaining why the Clone Wars just doesn't fit in that original timeline. But oh well. Nothing's perfect. Continuity is not perfect after all.
How they became Koi Valdar, and their relationships with their clone trainees, and through them, they serve as a conduit for the reader to learn more about the Mandalorian culture and language.
Learn about the culture, y'all.
This also gives insight into the variation of classes of clone troopers, and explains the difference between regular clone troopers, clone Commandos, and ARC Troopers.
ARC
Something that I
Troopers. I
find
love the
lacking
ARC
in other
Troopers.
novels and comics from this and subsequent eras. Last but not least, we get to explore more of the character of Bardan Yusik, a Jedi Padawan who, with his compatriot Etain Termukin, works closely with the Republic Special Operations Brigade, and we get to watch his camaraderie with the clones evolve to the point where he even starts becoming disillusioned with the Jedi Order, and starts thinking of himself as more of a Mandalorian than anything.
A Jedi who becomes a Mandalorian. That's pretty cool. The only Mandalorian Jedi I can think of is Tar Vizsla from like the old Republic stuff that was explained in the new canon.
As he becomes attracted to the culture, much in the same way as I and other readers did while reading. Aside from a few questionable decisions certain characters make in this novel, I thoroughly enjoy 000.
That's good you did, bro.
The Republic Commando series in its entirety to anyone who wants to learn more about the Mandalorian culture, clone troopers, or how the Grand Army of the Republic was formed and trained. In fact, in the description I have linked a YouTube channel that is creating a fan-made Republic Commando audiobook, and they have already finished Hard Contact and
That's very cool.
the first chapter of 000, so check that out if you're interested.
Maybe.
Number 2 on my list technically isn't 100% expanded universe, as it's a film novelization. I'm talking, of course, about Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith.
Okay, so I've bought the audio version of this book, the audio drama, and it's pretty good. It like explores like I guess like different aspects of the Clone Wars. We see more perspective on the characters. So yeah, definitely check out that audiobook. And if you want to read the book, go ahead, go for it.
By Matthew Stover. Working
Nice.
from George Lucas's script, Matthew Stover wrote the novelization before the film was even finished, and it was published.
Man, imagine releasing a book before the movie comes out, and then you buy it, and then you find out what happens. Like, I wonder if you're any of those kind of people out there, because they released a book years ago on The Empire Strikes Back, and that kind of spoiled the big spoiler of that movie. So people could find out before they even saw the movie.
The full month before the release of the film, so naturally it contains scenes that were deleted from the film upon release.
I bet it was
and also
deleted.
Slightly different dialogue. However, it is by no means inferior. Admittedly, my first exposure to the novelization was not a positive one, as when the
Oh, I bet.
PG-13 Revenge of the Sith came to theaters, my father did not allow 10-year-old me to go see it with my friends.
Okay, so fun story for me. Okay, so I was not really allowed to watch PG-13s and movies until, I don't know, I got to middle school. And Revenge of the Sith was an exception. My first PG-13 movie was Batman in 1989. But my parents didn't really let me watch Revenge of the Sith at first because it was PG-13, and I feel like the only reason why they didn't really want watching it is because Anakin gets burnt. But they let me watch it when I was 5 years old, so I've been watching Revenge of the Sith ever since. I was completely fascinated by the movie when I first saw it, so that's my interesting story about Revenge of the Sith, and I love Revenge of the Sith. It's easy one of the best Star Wars movies. It's like top 3 for me. Top 4.
My mother, who felt bad for me, bought me the novelization as a gift, which...
I don't... Can a 10-year-old... No offense, but can a 10-year-old handle reading a novel? I guess so.
I reluctantly
I have a
read
junior novel of
chapters
Revenge of the Sith. I
before
tried
tossing
reading it. It was pretty
aside,
good,
as I
cool.
was frustrated that I couldn't see the actual movie. However, upon
Yeah, that's probably a big bummer. You're just like, oh, come on, I get to read this book, but I can't watch the movie?
picking up the novel again in my teens, I absolutely fell in love with it, and I still maintain to this day that I prefer it to the actual film. It's so much more
wow.
than just the film novelization.
Look at that graphic
because there's so
design
many
of all
references to
the
other
legend
new
stuff.
material
That's
that
pretty
makes
cool.
It feel as if the entirety of the novel is this massive culmination of all the
Culmination.
film trilogies and all eras of the expanded
It's
universe,
all
and that
connected.
they're converging into one important point, and it feels truly powerful.
It maybe
Each
is.
chapter is from a different character's point of view, and the author does an immaculate job of capturing each character's essence. For example, when you're reading from Count Dooku's point of view, he's pompous and overconfident, and it's
I
really
bet.
interesting to
That's
read
what led to his
he
downfall.
thinks his part in this war is and his future role in Palpatine's new empire. The most important facets of the story come from Anakin's point of view, and the reason why I find the novel
We probably get respect of what he did in the Jedi Temple. Like, that'd be pretty cool.
be better than the film is because, given these insights into what's going on through Anakin's mind as these events are happening to him, you get more of a justification as to why he fell to the dark side, when the film just portrays him as selfish and power-hungry.
Maybe.
Case in point, in the novel, the whole reason why Anakin is striving to become a Jedi Master is because he'll gain access to the higher levels of the Jedi archives, which
I feel like people would get out of... I feel like if they added that to the movie, it'd be out of place for the audience. They're just like, oh, so he wants this for a reason.
include Sith holocrons, where he feels he'll be able to find the secret to saving Padme, and he has his friend Palpatine.
And then Yoda tells him death is a natural part of life. Train yourself to let go of everything you fear to lose.
To the Jedi Council. And when Mace Windu tells him, yeah, you can have a council seat, but you're not a Jedi Master, he's actually justified in his outburst. The film...
I thought it was justified since he just wanted it. For, I guess, a reason other than to be a higher ranking Jedi Master.
On the contrary, just shows him as being upset when he isn't granted a Master's rank.
But he's still upset even in the book.
Without this prior context, and all it does
Even
is
if you read it.
disservice to Anakin's character.
As you
Makes
said,
him
it
look
shows
like a
it.
selfish punk that wants more than he deserves.
I wouldn't say... I don't know about selfish punk.
In the novel, apart from his nightmares of Padme's death, Anakin is also tortured by his experiences in the Clone Wars, and the novel constantly references his thoughts on Jabim, Argonar, Munilist, etc., where he saw so many of his fellow Jedi get gunned down, and it's these little references to the Clone Wars multimedia project that I appreciate
The multimedia
so much,
project.
because it
The Clone Wars multimedia project was a project that came out before the Clone Wars did. Even George Lucas himself said that they are doing an animated series. It's gonna be on television. That's what he said. And they were doing these books and comics to fill running with the Revenge of the Sith, even the Clone Wars micro series.
brings all of the books and comics that I've read beforehand together. If your favorite Star Wars movie is Revenge of the Sith,
It's
I
definitely up
implore
there.
you to give the novel a try.
It's my favorite of all the
Promise that you'll love
prequels.
it as much, if not more, than the actual film. It's really that
Yeah, I still like the actual movie more, even if I read the book.
great.
It's the movies is as good as the book.
Last but not least, number one.
Number
on our
one.
10 favorite Star Wars expanded
Last
universe
one.
novel list is yet another James Luceno book, Star Wars: Labyrinth of Evil.
I
Labyrinth
think
of Evil was
Labyrinth of Evil is like shows what happened days before the Revenge of the Sith. So that's the cool tie-in. I always loved in the Siege of Mandalore arc in the Clone Wars. It shows that it takes place during Revenge of the Sith. That's what I always loved about that episode, and see ties into it. I always love that in Star Wars. Tie-ins to the movies.
published in 2005 as the last novel installment in the Clone Wars multimedia
The
project.
last
It is
one.
a direct lead-in to Star Wars Episode 3, Revenge of the Sith. You've heard me talk about it a bit in this video, but for those who don't know, the Clone
Fun
Wars
fact, everyone
multimedia
used in
project
this
was a
video.
collective effort by
I
Lucasfilm
originally
to
made it several
populate
years
the
ago, but it's a
previously
good update now. The
unexplored
graphic
Clone Wars
design
era with a highly
got me.
interconnected series of novels, games, comics, and the Clone Wars
It's hard to read.
miniseries
That's
that
in
chronicled
the
the
way.
events of the war while we all eagerly awaited the release of Revenge of the Sith. Labyrinth of Evil follows Obi-Wan Kenobi
And they say those Star Wars books back in the day were completely stand on their own.
Anakin Skywalker, who, during the siege of Cato Neimoidia, recover Newt Gunray's Mechno chair and discover not only that it can intercept highly encrypted transmissions from General Grievous, but also found past transmissions from the elusive Darth Sidious.
That's cool.
Which confirms everything Count Dooku told Obi-Wan in Attack of the Clones.
It does.
They use the encryptions to catch Grievous off guard at Belderone, and following this, Anakin and Obi-Wan track down the beings who made, designed, and transported the components of the Mechno chair in an effort to learn more about Sidious.
Cato
Meanwhile,
Pneumonia is
Mace
also
Windu
explored in the
leads a
book
team of
Brotherhood.
Arcs and commandos into the catacombs of the Works District on Coruscant to try and find Sidious. Before Anakin and Obi-Wan can get to the bottom of it, they are sent to the Tithe system after evidence of Dooku's presence is discovered there, and Mace Windu's search is interrupted by Grievous's invasion of Coruscant, and the rest of the novel is them dealing with those situations accordingly.
That's cool. It's like a little deleted scene in the Clone Wars biker series where it does show the Battle of Coruscant.
I love Labyrinth of Evil because it's this great culmination of all of my favorite pieces of Star Wars media from the Clone Wars multimedia project, and with new
I'm glad you love it. And we've got General Grievous on the cover.
Series, it really feels like you've been fighting in this massive war for years, but you can finally see the
It
light
is a
at the end
prequel
of
to
the
Revenge of
tunnel
the
as
Sith,
you
y'all.
reflect on all of your hardships. The unfortunate thing about Labyrinth of Evil, however, is that there are some discrepancies between it and the Clone Wars miniseries, specifically regarding the Battle of Coruscant and the Battle of Tithe. However, they're so easily reconcilable that it's not even really an issue.
Is it? I don't know.
In Clone Wars Volume 2, Palpatine tells Anakin and Obi-Wan to go to Nelvon to investigate sightings of General Grievous, and though they don't find him there, Anakin goes on a soul-searching journey and finds a
I love that episode. I reviewed it before with the other YouTuber Little Baloo. Check that review out.
Union lab experimenting on the natives, which he promptly destroys and saves them. While in Labyrinth of
I
Evil,
love that
Sidious,
episode
sensing that the
in the
Jedi are
Clone
close
War-
to
in the
discovering
Clone
his
Wars.
true identity, tells Grievous to send a diversionary fleet to attack the Tithe system, and Obi-Wan and Anakin are interrupted from their investigation to lead the liberation of Tithe, where they find out that Dooku is there, but he flees the planet before they can intercept him.
Oh, I bet.
The easiest way to reconcile the two is just have the events on Nelvon take place before the events of Tithe. And as for Coruscant, though certain characters are doing slightly different tasks than they are in the miniseries, the important thing is all of the characters who should have been on Coruscant are on the correct planet at the correct time, which is good enough for me. Even some of the secondary characters from the miniseries are there, such as Val Mudana and Roran Karab.
I love those. Those are underrated Jedi. I always love their lightsabers and the way they were designed and their species. It was sad to see them go.
So, the effort for interconnectivity between the book and the show was made, which is more than can be said for later Clone Wars works, but I'm not gonna get into that. Despite this hiccup, Labyrinth of Evil is still a fantastic read, and I would even go as far as to say that it's required reading if you're going to read the novelization for Revenge of the Sith, especially if you wish to know why Obi-Wan thinks that business on Cato Neimoidia doesn't count.
Do we actually see it though? Okay, so that's it. That is it. Oh, there's Tad.
There you have it. Those are my top 10 favorite
He's
Star
got a nice
Wars
looking
expanded
sweater.
universe novels. Tell me what your favorite Star Wars novels are in the comments.
I think mine is like Kenobi since I'm currently reading it still. It's hard since I'm not really a big book guy. That's why I never really grew up with the EU, because I never really read those EU books, because I'm just not really a reader. And those comics, I love those comics. I love the Dark Times comics. Those are probably my favorite Star Wars comics. And some of the Darth Vader comics as well.
The Star Wars Expanded Universe, check out my channel. And if you like what you see, why not subscribe?
Definitely, I already did. Honorable mentions, Dark Lord, the Rise of Darth Vader, Jedi Healer, the Healing Potion, oh, the X-Wing novels.
You guys are the reason why I keep going. Thank you so much.
Shadows of the Empire, that's a fun game. Han Solo books. I think I have like a big book of that, all in one book. It's like a Bible.
1997, David Miller.
Ooh, the Jedi Temple Trilogy. Death Troopers. I want to read that. I definitely want to read it. I think I tried looking for it. I asked for it for Christmas, but I didn't get it. But maybe I'll go find it one day at a library near me.
Your contributions are greatly appreciated, and I never
Force Unleashed, my favorite Star Wars game of all time.
where there would be people who believed in me and loved what I do enough to generously donate.
New Jedi Order.
So much.
Onslaught.
If you're interested in supporting this channel,
Okay, I think that's it.
Patreon page.
Okay, so that's it. So, I think that video is really cool. I think I can definitely see his passion for the books. And maybe encourages others to go read them themselves. Maybe if I ever finish the Obi-Wan book, I will review it. since that book's pretty good. So with that said, thanks for watching, and may the force be with you always.